Good evening and welcome to How to Thesis. Sorry for the small delay. We had a technical issue that we had to quickly solve, but we're ready to rock and roll, and we hope that we can provide a lot of useful information today. I am going to hand over the hosting to my colleague.
So, hello and hi, welcome to How to Thesis. Today we'll give you tips and tricks on how to write your thesis and also explain how the procedure goes and the organizational aspects and what you have to keep in mind. Let's go over what the agenda today will be. First of all, the overview, we just did that. Then I'm going to talk about the key information for your bachelor thesis and master thesis, or what are the prerequisites, what you have to take care of, then best practices and tips and tricks for your thesis. And in the end, a Q&A session, and I'm giving some additional resources. Okay, let's start with the key information. First of all, we have an FAQ. I highly recommend you guys use the FAQ. There are some important information summarized. There's also information about other things like how do I transition from bachelor to master's, etc. Just want to put it out so you guys don't forget. This is quite helpful. But the thing which you guys are interested in more. First of all, we talk about the bachelor thesis. What are the prerequisites to be able to write your bachelor thesis? The first one is you have to have at least 120 ECTS, and you can only have one mandatory module not completed yet, which means every other mandatory module has to have passed. So you have to have at least a 4.0 for them. The bachelor thesis was 15 ECTS, but keep in mind it will be graded double as that. So it means it's still worth only 15 ECTS, but it weighs double. So if you get a good grade in it, you can really push up your entire bachelor grade a lot. The processing time is 4 months. It can be extended by 1 month, but be careful. You have to have a valid reason for that, which is not your own fault, for example, an illness or some other issues. And you have to apply for it 2 weeks in advance before your deadline. So don't depend on it. Don't think I will 100% get the 1 month. That's not set in stone. All right, the next for the master thesis, what are the prerequisites here? You have to have at least 16 ECTS completed and 15 ECTS from a specialization area. Those who are doing the master thesis will know what a specialization area is. Those in bachelor thesis right now, a bachelor's program, you will get to it. Then it will be worth 30 credit points. Also the same, it will also weigh doubled during for your grade. However, the processing time is 6 months, and therefore it's a lot bigger. And yes, a lot bigger. And the extension period you can extend to is 3 months. Also, same rules apply. You have to apply for it 2 weeks in advance. It's not guaranteed. You will have to have a valid reason for that, which is not your own fault. Okay, here's some extra informations. Also, I'm just going to keep it in the slide. So if you guys download it afterwards, so you have everything in one slide. I know it looks scuffed right now, but I think it's easier for you to have it all in one slide. Then the most important things I can tell you guys is do not forget to register the start of it. In campus management system, you will get a reminding email where you have to say, okay, I'm starting today, and you will register it. There are cases where people forget it, then they write the entire thesis and it doesn't count. It's completely wasted. So do not forget that, okay? This is important. Don't worry, most of the times the supervisor will handle most of the work for you, so you don't have to do the entire organizational stuff. If you have questions, ask your supervisor. They will help you with that. Here's a short step-by-step. Like I told you, you don't have to do that yourself. It's gonna be an organizational test made by the examinee and your supervisor. Okay, a bit of general information. The bachelor thesis and the master thesis can be done in a group work. However, it's a bit difficult since every participant's work should be clearly distinguishable. So that means they have to grade you separately. So keep that in mind if you want to do a group work. It's your decision. I do not recommend it personally, but decide it for yourself. If you're doing a dual degree, for example, informatics and math degree at once, most of the times you have to do 2 theses, but if they overlap enough, you're allowed to do 1 single thesis. However, talk with the ISS and your supervisor about it, because they can tell you a lot more information if that's possible or not for your specific topic. Also, another important thing, you can terminate your thesis a single time. By termination, I mean you can say, okay, I'm going to withdraw from that topic after you registered. This is only possible in the first month and only a single time. It does not count as a lost attempt. You guys know, if you have only 2 attempts to successfully complete your thesis, this does not count at that. However, it will be documented in your system. So do not take it slightly. It's more like, all right, I just cannot work with that topic, or maybe my supervisor does not work with me at all. It's like an emergency exit, okay? Don't take it lightly. Then the also informations are, you don't have to do it at an institute in KIT. You can also do it at external institute or even external university. Like the most common is Fraunhofer. However, it's a bit of an organizational job. You have to find a supervisor from the Fraunhofer Institute, and you will have to find, you have to find a professor here at the KIT who will examine you. Fraunhofer and FCI most of the times have professors here already who are willing to help you, but still you need to look for them. You have to write them, write a secretary, etc. Read the FAQ for that. Also keep in consideration, maybe you have to travel if it's like a lab work, etc. So keep all of that in mind. And like I already multiple time mentioned, you need a valid reason if you want to extend your processing time. It has to be approved. So do not think, all right, I'm definitely going to get the 3 extra months. I'm definitely going to get the 1 extra month. It's not the case. You need a valid reason, which is not your own fault. Okay, then there's also a final presentation after the submission of your thesis. It's more like where the examinee asks you questions about, like, did you do your topic? Do you understand what your topic is about? Yeah, it has to be held for at least 4 weeks after the submission. It can be earlier, but it's a rare case that you held it before your submission date. And if it comes to case that you have to do your presentation after 4 weeks after your submission, it can't be your fault. It can only be your examinees or your supervisor's fault. Like they are sick or they just don't have an available date. So even if you're sick, that doesn't work. You have to be at least available one time at the 4 weeks. So yeah, but it should work most of the time. Your supervisors and professors will be nice to you. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little flow chart on how the thesis process can work. First of all, you have to find and apply for a thesis, which means you find a topic, you invite the supervisors or the secretary for that person. Then there's an induction phase where you start walking into the topic. That's also where you walk into the topic. If you know what you're doing, if you get, all right, what is expected of you, what will you have to do? This will also be done in the first month, and then come some optional things like a kickoff presentation or like an expose presentation. I did such a thing where you try to talk with your examinee and your supervisor to figure out what are they expecting, what are you expecting, what can you provide, does it work, does it overlap? So if you have your own ideas and they have completely different ideas, that's bad. So you want to have the kickoff presentation so you can figure out, all right, we're on the same page. They know what I want to do. I know what they want to do. There's also an optional intermediate presentation. I didn't do one, but it depends on the institute, on the topic of your supervisor and your examinee. Then there's the last month where I think most of the people will try to panic a bit. They think, all right, a lot still to do. Maybe I have to redo everything. Maybe I have to check everything I wrote again. We will talk about that also later. Then there's your submission. And after your submission, the final presentation. And after your final presentation, you are done. You finished with your work. You completed your thesis, hopefully. Okay. Now let's talk about best practices, some tips and tricks. First of all, how do I search for a topic? There are advertised theses. If you look straight around the corner here, there's a blackboard where people, institute write down, all right, different topics for bachelor thesis or for master thesis. You can read through them. You can also check their websites for that, which is also quite helpful. Then you write them an email and ask about it. I know at the beginning it will sound a bit weird. It will sound abstract. It will sound complicated. However, don't let yourself be frightened by it. still write them an email, ask for, hey, maybe we can meet up and talk about the topic, because it will help a lot and you will understand, okay, it's about this and it's about that. It can help you a lot. Then there's also another option. You can apply for a topic on your own if you have an own ideas. I think there's no institute which says don't give us your own ideas. I think every single one I checked said, if you have ideas, write us. If it fits to the institute and the supervisor is also fine with it, it can also work. So just write about your ideas. However, be careful. You have to talk with the supervisor about the scope. I mean, you can't do like idea you have, which will take 8 months or so in 4 months. That's just not possible. So you will have to meet with your supervisor, talk about it. Hey, you want to supervise me? Does it work? Does it not work? Stuff like that. And the last option is external work. Like I already mentioned, you can use the Fraunhofer or the FCI. That's the most common things. You can also do Mercedes-Benz or any other firm which allows you to do. You can ask them. They also advertise thesis, which you can do through them. However, like I already mentioned, it's an organizational effort. You have to check for an examinee within the KIT. You have to check the supervisor. You have to know that the supervisor can communicate with you quite a lot. So yeah, those are things you have to take care of. Now in master, since I already mentioned, master is a lot of more work since it's 6 months. An easy thing to do, like the tip and trick, is you get to know them a bit earlier. For example, internships or seminars with the institute, they allow you to do labs with them. So if you take a module about a specific institute, you can just get experience. You can think, all right, hey, I can work with that person. That topic sounds interesting. Maybe I keep that in the back of my head for a possible thesis. Also, another option is CV jobs, which is also great help. I knew a couple of people who did a CV job to get know a topic and then have a head start when writing their master thesis. So that's also an option you can keep in mind. However, be careful. It's quite subjective. Depending on where you want to specialize, what your topic is, it can change a bit. But yeah, these are some tips and tricks. All right, another important thing, there's something called a master's profile. It's like a specialization which will be shown in your degree. It's an optional thing. However, be careful. It has restricted conditions you have to meet to fulfill a master's profile. And the most important is your master's thesis must match this profile. For example, if I want to do a profile in robotics, my master thesis has also be about robotics. Yeah. Important thing, a master's profile has to be planned early, quite a lot. You won't get it just like this. It's not mandatory to do a master's profile. And in my experience, no one cares if you did one, but if you still seek the thrill, go for it. Why not? But you have to plan it early because it has a lot of restrictions. You have to read through them. You have to take specific modules, etc. Okay. Now let's go to another important thing. How do I work with my supervisor, or in special cases, how do I deal with them? The contact person during your thesis is not your examining professors. Usually, most of the times it will be your supervisors. And your supervisor will also be involved in grading your paper itself. First of all, you want to talk with them. You want to clarify what type of supervision will they do. How, if it's your own idea, how familiar is the supervisor with the topic? And another important question is, what walk wisdom can you have with the supervisor? For example, me and my supervisor have decided to meet at least once a week to talk about my current state and what my future goal is and how it's going. For example, you can also do once a week or maybe multiple times a week if necessary. Then another question is, to what extent is the supervisor able and willing to help? Like, will they only read after you completed a section? Will they not help you at all? Will they give you feedback? Will they write comments? Will they also help with your project? So you have to communicate with that. And to what extent is the supervisor willing to correct intermediate results? Which means if you finish a section, etc., will they go over it? Will they look through it? Or will they say, no, just finish it and I will only look at the finishing project? Which would, in my opinion, would be a bad supervisor. So yeah, talk with them about that too. And the last but also important thing is, how fast can you reach your supervisor? Is there maybe are they just looking at the mails once a week? Are they always available? Can you ask, all right, I'm having an issue right now, or maybe I'm doing a interview with a participant and there are issues now. Can they help me? It's also important. Okay, procedures, what you have to do before the thesis. Defining the scope. The scope must be reasonable. Depending on bachelor or master thesis, it has to be able to be done in that time. It should also be only worth like 15 credits point and not, you can't do a master thesis in a bachelor's thesis. That's just not possible. Don't think about it. You want precise goals. You want to talk with your examining professor. That's what the expose could be helpful for. So they know, all right, what am I expecting? What can I provide? Can I fulfill the expectations? How is the working environment? Do I have the technology for that? Maybe they need to provide me a laptop or something else. Is there a similar topic already at the institute or someone who's working at the chair about it? The next important thing, like I already mentioned, official registration. After your induction phase, the start time must be recorded. You do it in the campus management system. The title has to be fixed too. It shouldn't be too specific. It shouldn't be too broad, but honestly, don't worry about it. You can change it later afterwards. It's just you have to write a mail to the secretary and etc. But don't think, oh no, I have to find the perfect title right now. No, you can still change it afterwards. Okay. And the most important thing, avoid misunderstandings. Since it's your first meeting with the examining professor, probably they're going to have different expectations of you. So you want to record what they say to you or write down in maybe information about, all right, what is my research question? What do I provide? What are the answers they want to have? If you have doubts, talk with them again. Write them email, make up a meeting with your supervisor, and if necessary, also with your examining professor. Okay, what to do in your first months? Like I already mentioned, there's a possible kickoff presentation where you explain what you're doing, how it's going, what your like general idea is. It's usually only done in the master's program, but I did it also in my bachelor's program, so don't count it out. And I think it is helpful, like a lot, because you get feedback and you can just apply it directly. Another thing, you will do research. You will research papers, a lot of papers. Many have dozens and dozens of pages. You will get lost in them. You will later on search for a specific paper where you read, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, deep at the night about a single sentence, which you think is perfect for your literature, but you just can't find it. So I recommend using external tools like BibTeX or Zotero. You can put them at add-in in your browsers and then you just click a button and they save it. They save the author, the link, the PDF. So you don't have to go back and search it. You can also do notes in it. I highly recommend it. Citation is really important and they're really strict with it. And so Zotero BibTeX just does your entire citation for you, okay? You don't have to check formalities. It does everything of that. So I highly recommend using it. Another thing is, check the expectations. Like I already mentioned, what the expectation of the examinee, what's the expectation of the supervisor. You have your own idea, which you also want to communicate with them. Important. And if it turns out, all right, the topic does not work at all, I cannot work with my supervisor or any other reason which you think this definitely won't work, it's impossible, you can still withdraw from your thesis. But remember, like I already told you, just one time, don't waste it. Don't use it just if you think, maybe I can find a better fit. No. Just if you can't work with it at all. That's the only reason you should use it. Okay. What to do in the intermediate months? I'm currently in my thesis right now. I have to write. Maybe I can just write until the last week and then start doing it. No, don't. Just write continuously. Just take weekly goals. All right, I want to finish this in this week, and then maybe divide it even further into days, like even if just small steps, even if you just say, all right, I'm never going to write 2 sentences today. Just write something. You don't have to have it the final formalities correct. Just worst case, just write bullet points. It's easier to adjust things you wrote down than staring at a blank paper and have to write from your head. And another important thing is communicate with your supervisors regularly. Ask for feedback, say, all right, I think of this, I wrote this down. How is it? Is it good? Is it bad? And always, I cannot highlight enough, write down justifications. If you decide on something, why did you decide it? Write down. It's insanely helpful for your paper because your professor will love that. If you can say, all right, I decided to do a think aloud session because blah, blah, blah. Amazing, perfect. Also during your presentation, they will ask questions about why did you do this? Why did you decide on this? Why do you think this is the good idea? Having those notes early on, insanely helpful. Okay, if you have to do an intermediate presentation, highly depends on the topic, on your institute, on your supervisor, and your examining professor. Yeah. If you have problems, you normally talk directly to your supervisor. They will probably help you with that. Yeah. All right, last month. You're probably in panic right now. You think, all right, I will not get finished, or it's just not as good as I hoped it would be. The tip here, formulate, improve the writings. Yeah, don't think you will be done like a month ahead. It's rarely the case. Don't worry, sometimes you will also write until the last week. It can happen, but it shouldn't be like, oh, I have to do half of the thesis in the last week. That should not be the case, hopefully. So you want to use the last month to finalize it, reread it. If necessary, you have to reread it 10 times because there are always like small mistakes you can fix before the end. You want to include images, label them, standardize your terminology, and especially really important, check your sources one more time. Like I already told you, they are really strict with citation. They won't throw a plagiarism in your face. They won't do it, but they're still strict about it. So don't let it go to chance. Check your sources one more time. Check your citations one more time. It's worth it. And another important thing, plan feedback. Send in the final version to your supervisor. Let them read through it one more time. Let them give you feedback and have at least 5 or 6, 7 days to apply the feedback, to fix mistakes, to verify the results. Then you also want to talk with your supervisor about, do you need a printed version? Does it have to be binded? Does it have to be signed? Or is it just a PDF version? Things like that are important. And also a tip for writing, your examining professor is still human, which means the first impression is the most important and the last impression is the most important, which means your abstract, which will probably be the first thing they read, make sure it's good. I know everything should be good, but make sure that's especially good. And the end to your discussion or your conclusion, make sure that's also amazing. Because the thing in between is also important, yeah, but they're probably going to forget that quickly. But the first and last thing, most important, if you reflect the rest of your work, yeah. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the final presentation. Important thing, inquire about the conditions. Is it online? Is it in presence? What kind of adapter do I need? What technical equipment do I need? Who listens? How many people are there? Okay, how many people is not really important for you. You can just, the important thing for you is the examinee professors though, and everyone else you don't care about. The time frames, depending on the institution, is around 15 to 30 minutes, followed up by a Q&A session where they ask you questions, etc. You can't and you won't be able to talk about your entire thesis in those 15 to 30 minutes. It's just not possible. And I think everyone would be bored if you did that. So you want to pick out 1 or 2 interesting facts about your thesis. If you have a topic which you can't just take 1 or 2 facts, you want to narrow it down. You want to keep it more general, keep the interesting parts and throw away the boring parts. I think the best guess is you check your abstract and your preparation, also your limitations and conclusions, and try to focus on that. I think those will be the interesting things for your professor, etc. Also, the Q&A section, don't get nervous, don't panic. They will not try to throw you under the bus, but they will ask some questions. Most of them will be like contextual questions, like, all right, your topic, where does it belong with other research literatures? Why did you make specific decisions? How did you justify doing this and that? Or maybe questions, why did you do this? And that's why you also want to write down your justification early on. So you have those notes, you can look through them. You can repeat them before the Q&A session, and then you have like, all right, I can justify myself. And if it's a content-related questions, it's most of the times it will be superficial or quite general. They won't go too deeply in depth, but yeah, still no guarantee. Okay, also common sense, rehearse your presentation, practice it several times, at least once in a week. This is your final thing. This is like the final grade. Do it. It's not bad. Do it with you can also ask a supervisor if they will be a participant for your rehearsal, because maybe they can also then ask some training questions, which can be worth it. You can also ask fellow students. Would be difficult. You can ask them if they understand what the topic is about, if they never heard about it. So that's a good thing. But maybe they cannot help you a lot with the Q&A session. Okay, what are possible challenges? External factors. The software is not working. I never heard of the programming language. Or maybe my examinee only talks in English and I'm really bad at English. The material I got is defective. It's not working. Those are challenges which could appear. So don't wait until the last second, prepare it early on. You can talk with your supervisor about it. They can help you with that. There's also internal factors, psychological stress. All right, I have to do a lot of work. Can I even do it? It's difficult. You can get sick, which is also bad, obviously. There's also writer's block where you're just staring at your paper, not knowing what to write or even how to write. That can also happen. Or even if you just start to panic and think, all right, this is impossible, I can't do it, it will never work. It's not always bad. For example, if you want to do a project and it turns out, all right, the project fails, it's not working, or your study fails, it does not mean your thesis is over, because also a failed project gives you result. If you write in your conclusion, it failed because of this and that, and maybe in future you can change this up. This is impressive information, important information. Your examinee will love that. All right. So if your project fails, write down why it failed, what you could have done better. This can also give you like the perfect grade. So if it's not working, don't worry. If the problem appears at the beginning of your thesis, maybe you can think of reorientating a bit, talking about the supervisor, maybe you can change the research question even. If it's later on, it's going to be a bit more difficult. Maybe an extension can help you. Just hope it doesn't happen. It's like my personal tip. But also another challenge in writing, how do I do that? Your entire thesis is about writing. If you have a writing blockade, if it's just not working, what ideas are there? There's the just one thing method, which is I like to use, where I just pick one single section I want to write for the week and divide it into every day, where I just wrote like 2 sentences a day. I know it's not a lot, but at least you have something. Or where you can just write bullet points down. Because like I already told you, adjusting something is easier than creating something. You can also work with fixed working hours, like 9 to 5. No, I do not recommend working 9 to 5. Try to work 6 hours a week, take fixed time. If you can't work 6 hours a week, maybe just take 3 hours, not a week, sorry, a day. I mean, a day. And you don't have to be concentrated the entire time. So you can just, all right, maybe I'm concentrated just the first half an hour, then I have like 10-minute break and then again. So try to do it like how you would study for an exam. Also, like I already mentioned, you don't have to write in your final form. Like it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be like perfect now. It's better to just write down bullet points, or at least whatever you have in your head, and then change it on later on. Fix it, the formatting, etc. You can always change that later on. So at least you have something. And to avoid, because I think if you have ADHS or some other problems, starting is always difficult, especially for me. I can relate to that a lot. So try to have your contents ready, your chapters, your sections, subsections. Because if you have the title ready and know like, I know what the content should be, it makes a lot easier to start or keep writing. So have that in your head early. Even you can also talk with your supervisor about your chapters and sections so they know, all right, this is like a good structure, this is a bad structure. So you can talk about it too. There are also writing classes at the House of Competence. I recommend that if you have trouble with writing or need an expertise or like someone who want to additionally look over your paper or what you have written, because they provide a tool. You can check the link, it's quite helpful. Now we talk about absolute no-goes, which you cannot do during your thesis. If you have your own idea or maybe just have your own thoughts about how the thesis should be, it should not be insanely different from what your supervisor or your examinee is expecting. They should overlap quite a lot because you cannot hope, all right, no, I just want to do it my way. I don't care what you're saying. That won't do. Obviously, that won't do. They are they're grading your paper. You have to fulfill their requests, but you can still talk with them and say, this is what I wish for, and maybe they can find a compromise, etc. Another thing is poorly differentiating subproblems. You don't want to have a lot of subsections, like unnecessary ones, which are just 1 or 2 sentences. It's just bad practice. Or just one section for like the half of your paper, that also won't do. Talk with your supervisor, they will help you a lot with that. Another thing, if you're writing documentation, writing code, etc., don't forget to document it. It's really important because if someone else needs to work on it, if your supervisor wants to check on it, if they just see your blank code without documentation or explanation, they will think, what did you do? What is this? I can't work with that. You can't do that. Another thing, like I mentioned, you can't write half your paper 3 days before the deadline. That just, how is that supposed to work? You won't get any feedback. You will be in stress. You will make mistakes. The supervisor can't check it. Yeah, no. Another thing, don't be unprofessional with your supervisor. They are not your best buddies, etc. They are still your supervisor, obviously, and your examining professor. So be professional with communication. Don't be rude. Common sense, don't be rude, guys. Okay. Another thing is, if the deadlines are appearing, don't forget, if you need to print or bind or even sign your papers, you always have to sign the declaration. You will always need it. And don't forget to put in the tools you have used. For example, I'm using Grammarly because I love Grammarly. It's insane. I cannot use commas or dots for my life, so Grammarly helps a lot. Put it in. I don't think anyone's gonna hurt you. All right, if you say, all right, I let ChatGPT wrote my entire paper. Yeah, sure, that's good luck. That won't work, guys. But yeah, don't forget to write your declaration and sign it. It's important. Okay, what can you do after your bachelor thesis? Now we talk about specifically the bachelor thesis. If you want to do a master's program, don't forget to apply for it. Here are the deadlines written here. You can read it. You have to apply for them, but you have to finish your thesis and all your modules before the semester start. So if it happens that, for example, that's my case, my thesis cannot be done before April, so I cannot start my master thesis this summer semester. That's why the KIT has the Master Vorzug program. This is where you can do modules from the master's program in your bachelor thesis, but you can add them to your master's program later on. So that's this thing. You can only do up to 13 credit points, but I think that should be enough for a single semester. And afterwards, you can just normally join the master's program and everything's normal. Just if your submission or any other module you have to complete is done, even if it's just a single day after the deadline, they will not allow it. They will tell you to do the master Vorzug. Sad, but yeah, that's how it works. But I guess it's fine. Yeah, what can you do after a master thesis? You now have your master's completed. You should not forget to withdraw and exmatriculate you from the university. Then you can also collect your graduation documents. Then you have a couple of options. You can maybe pursue a doctorate if you're interested in. Here's the link where you can inform you about that. Or if you want to start your career, here's also a job search from Career Service. The link is also provided here. Like I already mentioned, the PDF slides will be uploaded in our event archives. You can just download them there and then click on the links. Yeah. Another pro tip, we will have like how to write your CV or how to find a job in Germany on the 24th June, and also a second part on the 7th July. So if that's something you're interested in, you can join that too. I put in this slide, or maybe we put in this slide because it could be helpful for you. You don't have to use it. You can use your own calendar, etc. But write something down. Write your weekly goals down. It helps you a lot. Write down your weekly goals. Maybe divide them between the days, but don't think like, all right, I'm going to do this month. No, just do weekly goals. That's, I think, the perfect dividing of the big workloads. Yeah. All right, now we're going to talk about common questions they had during the normal, like the previous how to thesis thing. Yeah. Can you apply for a thesis at different faculties? The answer is yes, but you have to fill out a form and it has to be approved. Can you still take exams after you completed your master thesis or bachelor thesis? The answer is yes, as long as you're enrolled, which means you have to do the Rückmeldung, where you give the university your money and they allow you to study even longer. So yeah, as long as you've done that, you can also take exams afterwards. Recommendation when we should apply for a bachelor thesis. In my personal experience and friends I asked, 2 or 3 months before your desired start date. Because most of the times the supervisor, especially the initial feedback or the answer to your email, they take their times. Sometimes you wait 3 or 4 weeks even. They take their time to answer you, then you will have to meet up with them, talk about the topic. Maybe it's a topic for you, maybe it's not. So I recommend 2 or 3 months before the desired start date. Yeah. Can you do the thesis in German or English? Usually both are possible. However, you have to talk with your supervisor. If your supervisor only understands English, obviously you can't write it in German. That won't work. Yeah. The differences in page count between a bachelor thesis and master thesis. Obviously, the master thesis is a lot more work than a bachelor thesis, but you cannot just put a number on it. It greatly depends on, is it a literature-based thesis, is it a research thesis, or is it a project thesis? And depending on the topic and the institute, etc. So you can't just put a number on it, but it's most likely more. Where can I find the institute websites? I put in the link here. You can check the websites. They also upload possible topics there. There's also email address where you can ask the secretaries or if you have your own ideas. Can I do a master Vorzug at another university and let it be counted in KIT? Yes, it's possible. Check the FAQ. It's only possible after the admission, but you still have to check the FAQ for more details and maybe talk with the ISS about it. Okay, then can I submit the bachelor thesis earlier than 4 months or the master thesis? Yes, it's possible. Do I recommend it? Definitely no. You need that time. You want that feedback. If you're done like a month earlier, perfect. Take that time, revisit it, fix small mistakes. Maybe there's something you can improve. You're not in a rush, I hope. So take your time. Then is seeking a lot of feedback positive or negative thing? I personally say there's no such thing as too much feedback. However, you cannot go after every sentence to your supervisor and say, hey, is that sentence good? Yeah, no, but I think it's good if you finish a section, go and ask them, they give you feedback, you apply the feedback, and you're asked if you applied it in a great way or in a bad way. But yeah, the simplest thing is to ask your supervisor. Then another question, what can I do if the supervisor is bad? If he treats me poorly, if it's in the first month? I mean, first of all, I would incline you guys to search a conversation with them. Maybe they just haven't realized it yet. Maybe they have other stuff going on and then you can find a solution. If that doesn't work, maybe you can also get the examinee involved, because they're like a level higher than the supervisor most of the times. So you can also ask the Fachschaft, the student council, or the student advisor services. Most likely you will find a solution if you talk with your supervisor, but if it doesn't work at all. Use your right to withdraw from the thesis because you need the help of your supervisor. They can give you a lot of feedback. They have the expertise. So don't think, oh, what, I can just do it on my own. No, you need the feedback. So if it doesn't work at all, withdraw from it, even if it's your dream topic. All right, how much prior knowledge is required before writing your thesis, whether it be bachelor or master? It's just the basic knowledge from your studies. I mean, you shouldn't go in like, oh, I never heard of a computer before, depending on the topic, I guess. But yeah, you don't need any specific knowledge. That's what the induction phase is for, where you work in your topic, where you get to know your topic. Yeah. Should you take courses beforehand or modules about that topic? It's helpful, I guess, but it's not mandatory. It's not necessary. I mean, like I already explained to you during your master thesis, it is helpful to have seminars done in that topic or maybe a heavy job even, because you already know a lot of things and can get a head start, but it's not mandatory. You can still get a perfect grade without it. Okay. Then we will shortly come to the end of our presentation. Are there questions? If you have questions, just raise your